to the schools, we are, we changed it to one program per application. So there's unlimited amount of programs that you can apply up to. And each application must be named by the program name that you're proposing. I'll go more into detail on all of this stuff once we go through the demonstration of the application. So if it doesn't make sense now, hopefully it'll make more sense later. And if you have any questions again, there are some changes in the program detail section. There's some changes in the program budget section, and I just want to go into a couple of more details, specific changes in the preliminary planning agreement. So back to one program per application. On page 2 of the guidelines, and Gina, if you can put a link to the guidelines so that you guys all have that. We really, really want you to please read the guidelines before you apply. It will help, hopefully with the way you enter everything, and hopefully, will be a little less confusing. If you try to go into the application without reading the guidelines, you might get confused. So each organization will propose one unique program per application. And the reason why we changed it to you're naming the application by program name rather than organization is that's going to help us with the matching process later on. And it helps kind of, with you, with your budget for each program, and also with any specifics of the program. Because actually this year we're going to be sharing what you enter into these sections with the school application as well. The first application, you'll enter your organizational profile information and your preliminary questions. Those are answered one time. And then I know you're probably worried, like, oh my God, I got to do it, an application for every program. Like, what if I want to apply 5 programs? Am I doing all this stuff over and over again? No, you won't. You will only answer these questions once when you go to apply your second program and you enter a new application. All of this information in the organization profile and preliminary questions will be auto populated into your second application, and you will just be going through the program details budget separately for that individual program. And I'll show you how that works as well. Under the program details, you'll enter the individual answers for each application in this section. So one of your programs may be a visual arts program, and you're doing fingerprint painting. All the details for that specific program are in that application. When you do your second application, if it is watercolors, it's different, a totally different program on a different subject. You're going to enter each individual, all of the answers individually under that, and you'll have a separate program budget for that as well. In the guidelines on page 9, there's details on, what we're looking for in each of these questions. So if you refer to the guidelines, you'll be able to get more of an explanation of what we're looking for. For program budget, this is another major change. So last year, we had a max of 17.5, but that included 4 programs. This year, each program application, you will be able to propose up to a $7,000 budget. And you can refer again to the questions for the budget information, what questions will be answered, and I'm going to go through that later. So for this, the preliminary planning agreement, for organizations, this is actually in the guidelines. We added a few things just based on feedback that we've been getting for the past couple of years. I won't go through it, line by line, but I really do stress that you read this before you go in. Once you're matched to a school or a school district, you will contact them and you will conduct a preliminary planning meeting. So all the logistics, your actual timeline, start date, end date we need in our records, as well as some of the data we'd like to know, like the total number of students, how many sessions are included, and all this has to go in, has to be given to us before you go to the school. So in the past, we've had, we've had you schedule, maybe had a preliminary planning meeting and you have, a period of time that you're thinking about, but then the actual dates are not done like until right before the program starts. And sometimes, within that time, a lot of things change, schedules change. So we really need that to be set prior. And also, for funding purposes, those start and end dates have to be on your invoices. So yeah, we'd like to have that as early as possible because it does take us a while to process the funding, at least 30 days in advance. So we appreciate, getting all this information, you reaching out to the schools, making sure everything's set, way ahead of time rather than, a month before or a week before. This way, if there's any changes that have to be made or things that, you really have to go through, you have time to make those changes. And here's where we, take a pause. If you have any questions so far, you can let us know. And I just put in here the actual our website where the guidelines can be found. This is our website. If you scroll down here, this is where you apply. And if you click on here, it'll give you the guidelines right there. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Gina. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Rosa.
For now.
Yep, and I shared the link for those guidelines in the chat. So I know that was a brief overview. A lot of it was covering kind of the changes from last year to this year. But now we'll go into the application itself side by side with the guidelines, because within the application, Rosa was kind enough to give you the page of the guidelines that we refer to when you're going through the application in and of itself. We'll get into that. I don't see any questions in the chat and I don't see any questions on the screen. So Rosa, you ready to go on to the application?
Yeah, let me just 1 second.
Right. And I forgot to mention earlier, so after this application closes for the organizations on March 6th, is it March 6th, Rosa? No. Yeah.
March 11th.
March 11th. So it'll close on March 11th. And then following that, a few weeks later, we will open up our school applications. So similar to the process that you will be going through, the schools and school districts will then apply to us directly for your programming. And then after that point, everything is reviewed by a peer review panel and then matched accordingly. So I just wanted to get that. There's a question from Sandy. What is the maximum amount of programs that you can apply for? Great question. So it's open-ended. There is no maximum amount this year of programs that you can apply for, because we wanted to make everything available to all of the schools throughout this county and give them the most opportunities to select what they really need in terms of arts programming. That being said, it doesn't mean that all programs will be selected. So it's, you know, just contingent upon the school need and the funding that's available. So I would urge anyone that's applying for more, you know, than 4 programs, you really want to be cognizant of the descriptions and how each program is different for each grade. And we'll go into that in a minute, but that's kind of the biggest thing that we and the schools are looking at. So if you are offering one program from K to 12, you really need to distinguish the difference in how you're applying that program to kindergartners versus 12th graders. So just want to reiterate that. So it is open-ended for as many programs as you like to apply for. However, it's contingent upon the schools, the need, and the funding that will become available.
Correct. And
Cool.
also, I just want to make a note too, on the application, the preliminary questions, there is a one question where we ask that you let us know the maximum number of schools that you are able to provide. So keep that in mind. You know, if you say you're able to provide programming to 5 schools maximum in your preliminary questions, that means that, you know, overall, all your programs that you are applying for, you can do that many schools. And then also within each of the programs, you are also going to tell us what's the max school. So we, you know, be wary of that, because if you say 5 and we get 5 requests and we're able to place you in 5 schools, you know, we will place you in 5 schools. So we want you to be, you know, prepared for that.
And thanks so much, Judith. It is the deadline for your application is March 4th. That's the deadline.
Yes,
Thank you
correct.
for
And
clarifying that.
March 11th is actually when the school application and school district application goes live. So in between that time, we're going to be collecting all of the program names, descriptions, grade levels, municipalities, and that's going to go into the school application. And I'll talk about that a little later as well.
Okay. So I think we're getting some questions now. So why don't we just jump into the application? I feel like once we start going through it, it'll answer a lot of the questions with
Okay.
matching.
Okay, I'll share my screen now. Okay. So I have the guidelines up on the left here. You guys can see that. Can you guys see that?
Yep, looks
And
good, Rosa.
okay, and then the application is up to the right. I just want to hop into oh, I see. I just want to give you the full screen of what the application is going to look like. So just a note is when you go in initially, if you're not registered already, it's going to ask you to register as an organization. You're going to enter your name, and then you're going to go into a screen and that will ask you for all your organization information. So I've already partially started filling this out. But I'm going to start at the beginning here. So the first thing you need to do is put in an EIN number. And you won't be able to go into the application without that. Back to application. That was just a, for an example, I put one in there. And then you'll be able to go into your first, as I said, the organization profile and preliminary questions. So this is where you will put your organization name will actually be pre-filled in, and then I've already entered, this will be blank, and you'll be able to, you know, fill that in. If you are applying under a fiscal sponsor, or your organization has been under any other names, we ask that you put that in this section right there. And then you'll be asked, you know, your basic questions here. It'll be a click. If you have a different mailing address, it'll show you, you know, what to fill in there. And then no, you will respond. You will continue on. Enter, okay, here. What is your organization type? So we've had some organizations that are not based in Hudson County, but have a fiscal sponsor that does business in New Jersey. So if you are outside, it doesn't mean that you do not qualify, you still may qualify. If you are based in Hudson County, you just click here. Now, right from the beginning in this section, you're going to upload all of your documentation, nonprofit incorporation, your 501c3 nonprofit designation letter, a copy of your IRS form W-9. We've had some questions on this already. If you have a fiscal sponsor, all of this documentation is going to be under their name. And then this is something you will be able to click on here, download it, fill it out. You have to check some boxes, read it, sign it, and then you're going to upload it back into the application. Your mission statement will go here, your board of trustees. And then we go into the preliminary questions. So it's basically, tell us about your organization. What is your you know, primary focus? What's your experience working with young people? And here's the question, you know, for each proposed program may be considered for one or multiple schools. So what's the maximum? Let us know how many total schools all of your programs can be put in. And then has your organization applied? This is just, you know, information on any past grants. If you have other grants, it doesn't mean that you are, you don't qualify. We just, you know, would like to know, you know, what are the other grants that you have applied to. If there's any issues, we'll let you know. And then throughout the application, you can, I do recommend that you go up here. Once you've filled it all out, you're able to download each section, and that's your copy. So in case, you know, in case of anything, you have a copy of it. You can save and continue editing. And when you do that, you will have this half circle. That means you've you still need to finish filling it in. You will also receive this message. Please check your answers below and correct them. So if anything is not filled in, it'll let you know. You do have to have all of these files uploaded in order to mark as complete. Oops, sorry about that. So I can't mark this one to show you, but once you do that, this will turn into a check, and that is done. Any questions on that section?
I don't see any questions in the chat. Everyone's good. I think we can move on.
Okay, so program details. So I just wanted to note here, so when you enter your program name, you will not have to enter it again. It will be auto-populated here and here. So when I open my application, when I entered the name of my application, I entered finger painting and more. And that's the name of this program as an example. So you will not need to enter that, but you will need to provide the summary here. And this is the summary I was talking about that is going to be populated into the school application. So yeah, the school, I just want everybody to know, the school is going to see what you enter here. So we just want it to be a brief description of, what the program is all about. And then we ask that you upload an example of your lesson plan or the curriculum with your outcomes and goals and how they're going to be evaluated right here. And then here, you are going to have the choice of picking the municipalities that you would like to work in. If you read the program priorities, one of them is the more, counties, the more municipalities that you are willing to, branch out into, the better, your chances of being placed. If you want to do that, you can just click here and it will give you the choice of working in any municipality. If, however, you cannot do that and you only want to do Jersey City, and Hoboken and Bayonne, say you click those three. And then, whoop, sorry about that again. And then you will choose one discipline for that. So mine's fingerprinting, then it'll be visual arts. And then here you will select the grade. So if you are proposing every grade, you can hit all. However, as Gina mentioned, you will have to give us a brief description of each grade level, how it's going to be differentiated. And it will it'll list every grade level. If, your program is focusing on pre-K and kindergarten, or, there might not be, a huge difference in those grade levels. But if it's pre-K to 5th grade, then there may be, a difference in, there are first two, there may be, some higher level, skills that you're working on for these other grades. I just want to uncheck it. So, okay. Once that's done, this will be the next question after the grade levels. Please describe the selection, review, training process for the teaching artists who will work on your proposed arts education program. So for each program, you may have, a set of teaching artists that you reach out to. We would like to know, what your process is, and we also ask that you upload some sample resumes of those teaching artists that will be working in each of the programs. And then we ask also, what are the physical requirements for in-person learning that you will need the school to complete your proposed arts education program, including but not limited to space, equipment, materials. So these are your logistics basically, and this is what you're going to be talking about in your preliminary planning meetings. So just a heads up to everyone, you may have been in, a Hoboken school district school, and they have, tons of equipment. You may not have to bring it. They have it there for you. They may have microphones. They may have an amazing, black box theater or an amazing auditorium. You may go to another school in another district and they have none of that. and I'm talking about for your like final presentation. Some programs can be done in the classroom, but the culminating final presentation, you may want to do it on a stage, or you may want to do it informally in the classroom. It's entirely up to you. It does not have to be a formal presentation. But if it is, we recommend that, right off the bat, you let the school know, and make, schedule that theater, or ask them if they have that equipment. If you have the equipment on hand and you're able to bring it to the school, then, you can let them know, that you just need the stage and you're going to do everything else. But that all has to be, talked about in your meetings way ahead of time, like right in the beginning, because of scheduling. Schools are really, really busy. They have a lot going on. They may be using that theater all the time, or, in some cases they may not be, and it may not be an issue for you to go in at, any time. But we do recommend that, you bring that up, right in the beginning, so that, there's no issues, uh, rather than, just bringing it up like the week before. Oh, I need to look at, I need to look at your space. We need, we need to go in there, the night before or early in the morning, that, and then there's an issue. We just, want you to, then, we've had some programs where we've had to make some just really last minute changes. So we highly, highly recommend that, all that is, brought to the attention of the school, initially right away in your preliminary planning meeting. Um, the next question deals with accessibility. We definitely want to reach, there are schools that have populations of students with all different, abilities, and we love to offer, programs that, are geared specifically for special ed students. And so we'd like to know, how you're making your programs accessible, what you've done in the past, how you have worked with, um, specific populations of students with learning disabilities. So that is, really important on the application, that you identify specifically, groups that you've worked with in the past, so that we can be able to match you to, schools that have those populations. And then also, in the case that a school needs to go into remote learning, we just want to know, how you will be able to, if you are able to, switch your programming to remote learning. And we ask, if you can adapt your programming, tell us how, and be, as detailed as possible. And if you can't, tell us why. And then here we're going into the timeline. So this is again, this is a big change from last year. We were a little more detailed last year. This year, we just want you to give us the description. You can refer to the page 9 of the guidelines. We really want here, in this section, a session by session or week by week description from start to end of your of each particular program. And we want you to know that timelines are subject to change based on the needs of the individual school. So we ask that you be flexible as you can be. So take into consideration your budget, the session numbers, your timeline, and, when you're being flexible with that, maybe let us know, the ways that you can be flexible. We would, we highly appreciate all of that information in here. Instead of by time that we did last year, this year we're doing the total number of in-class sessions, and sessions meaning, up to an hour of time. So for example, well, let me just say, the minimum requirement that your program should have is at least 5 in-class sessions in the school. That means contact with the students. And it should occur at least 1 session per week, per school or per class. So, most schools will apply, and usually they don't want to just put your program in 1 class. If it's like, say, kindergarten and 1st grade, you're saying you can do that. Let's say they have 1st grade, and they usually have more than 1 class in the 1st grade. They may have 3 classes. So you're going to let us know, okay, well, I can do 3 classes, per week, and I want to do that, in 1 day. And it'll be over the course of 5 weeks. So that's how you figure it out, your hours, or your total sessions. So the program, maybe for example, 10, and that would be 2 sessions per week. And then here, the number of students per class on average we put here is usually between 15 to up to 30 students. We've had some classes go a little over that. So we want to know the maximum number of classes that you can accommodate in 1 school. So if go back to this example of, if it's just 5 in-class sessions, so it would be 5 per program, but then if you have 2 classes, your total sessions would then be 10. So that's why we say here, if you would include more than 1 class school, your budget, then multiply this number by that amount. So that's what we mean by that. And then again, what is the maximum number of schools in which you are able to provide this program? So you're saying here, I can do, 2 classes in each school, and then here I can do up to 2 schools. Save, and okay, that's it for the program details. Any questions on that?
Hi, yeah, we
Um,
have, oh, sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh,
It's you.
it's actually Lisa. For some reason, when I logged in, both John and I come up as John, I guess because he was registered.
Oh, that's funny. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
How are you?
hi. So I just have a question about this. So I know, and I'm glad that it was switched to sessions, because I know last year there was some confusion because it was previously done as like contact hours, and then that led to some confusion between what the school kind of saw as that versus us seeing it as sessions. But I guess I'm just confused because the first question says if you want to add more than 1 class slash school, but like, the budget would change by a much larger amount if it was by school versus by class, because if we're already in a school and we're just adding on an additional class, then really all we're adding to the budget is to pay that teaching artist to stay and teach another class. But if it was doing another school, that would kind of mean, increasing the budget overall, because now you're talking about the travel and the everything. So I guess I'm a little confused as to how to do that math in that particular circumstance. If we say, like, we're happy to offer performances in as many schools as possible, and that's just a one-off. But if we were going to a residency, that math would kind of change a lot by a school versus a class.
Okay, so I mean, I think, yeah, we are, in your case, in the past, you've done some schools where you just did a performance without workshops.
Right.
So now we're requiring that there is the workshops and there is the hours, so it is gonna be more of a residency. I don't know if this
Oh,
is
okay,
the
so we
answer to your
we
question.
can't even offer the performance alone anymore.
Is, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, but then,
I
so
mean,
then
we
with the,
prefer- yeah. Mhm.
but this
No,
question was kind of more geared toward the residency example, because, we can do 4 classes a day in one school for less money than we could do 1 class a day in 4 schools, because again, like, just even paying to get the artist back and forth and stuff like that increases the budget more exponentially than, like, they're already in the building, now just do more classes. We then just add on a fee for the artist to just teach more. So I'm just afraid that it'll be hard for us to make that clear.
well, I
The
think
way
that's where the narrative part, when we get into the program budget, is that's where you're gonna explain all that in your narrative. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, I was just gonna say,
yeah,
yeah, that's where you want to specify. So, if it's more convenient for you, and then, so you're looking at your program and you're looking at it with your timeline and your lesson plans and everything like that. So you want to approach it as, okay, I would love to do one school, 4 different classes in one school. So that's what you're going to address in the narrative. You can also, however, say in your narrative, we are available to do multiple schools, but the budget would be different. So maybe you apply to a separate program for separate schools. Does that make sense? So maybe you
It-
do 2 programs similar. One is for one school, multiple classes, and another one could be for, the budget would reflect multiple schools, one program.
I'm just not really sure if that's clear to me in terms of how that's going to make it clearer. Like, I don't want to have to do multiple multiple applications that will essentially be telling you the same program over and over again, because we only really offer the one, it's the performance with the pre and post workshops.
Right.
So,
But at the end of the day, the budget needs to match the program. So if you're telling us your budget for one school, multiple classes is going to be X, but if your budget is going to be Y for same program, multiple schools, you need to address that. So whatever your budget is going to be, that's the program that you need to speak to.
okay.
Yeah, you just want to be as clear as possible, and your budget just needs to match the program. However you want to approach it, it's up to you.
Got
yeah,
it.
and then what the difference is gonna be is that, the schools are gonna be able to see, what's included in, like, how many sessions and, how many classes, ahead of time. They're gonna be, choosing, in a prioritized list, so they're gonna have more information than they had in the past. And, we're also gonna have more information for the matching process, so hopefully it's gonna be a better matching where, we have that information ahead of time, Lisa. So you're not guessing at the end. So that's why we want to have that, that your budget has to match what you're actually, you know, um, offering.
So would you then prefer we just say in that area where you had that we had to put the numbers, can you just bring that up again, at the bottom there? Um, you would rather than that just reflect, like, okay, we're happy to go to a school and do 4 classes in a school and just do those multiples that way, but then within the narrative say, but we're happy to replicate this in up to 3 schools.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea. It's so
Okay.
that, even though you're applying one program, and that's your budget for that, that one school, you're telling us this is the budget for one school, but I can go into 3 schools. That means
Got
that we can take this particular program and we can apply it 3 times. So it's not gonna be, you're only getting, $7,000 once to do it in all those schools. you're gonna be awarded, 3 programs. So it'll be times 3, that budget.
Got it. Okay,
And
because I think
then-
what I was misunderstanding was where it says if you would like to include more than one class slash school. And I think, I
Oh,
guess what
where,
you're trying to say is class per school, but I thought you meant if you'd
yes,
like to increase
yeah,
it by more than one school. And I was like, well, wait, that would be a big difference. So I just wanted to, maybe
yeah.
that must be a little confusing. So no, that makes sense now. That makes
Okay,
sense.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what it's meant. I'll make a note of that, like maybe make that more clear. Thank
Right,
you.
yeah, so it's a class per school, right?
Per school. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
I have
you,
a
thank you.
sorry. Um, sorry, I actually have a question regarding what we were just talking about. So, I have like 3 listed, but the third one, can certain programs be scheduled to start after other schools have completed their sessions? So I know there's like the maximum number of schools, you'll be able to provide maybe this program at the same time, or does it necessarily have to be at the same time? Because that means during a school year, its school year starts September and ends in June. You can like, for example, we can provide the same service in 3 schools at a time. And then once that program has been completed, then we can go in and provide the same
Another-
program with, for another 3 different schools. How do we go about kind of like
Yeah, you can
putting
definitely.
this information
Mhm.
on here?
You
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
definitely
Thank you.
have, yeah, if you're able to do it that way, yeah, that's the program period is between September and June. I just want to say it's hard to get in there and start exactly in September. But and there are a lot of holidays to take into account. So we recommend that if you are able to schedule 3 programs in 3 different schools throughout the year that aren't taking
Yes.
place at the same time, but you must contact all 3 of those schools like right off the bat and make sure you have your preliminary planning meetings done and you have your dates scheduled with the school, because a lot of things change. And if you're not, if you're scheduling one school because it starts, October to December, and then you hold off and you wait and not schedule, your other one and not contact your school, you may have an issue with the whole scheduling. So, all that you have to contact all those schools. We have to have the start and dates, right off the bat in the beginning of September or October, or when you make
Yes,
those arrangements. Yeah.
Okay, but is there a way for us to input this information here? Do we have to input that information now?
Yeah.
Or
So actually that is where your timeline comes in.
okay,
So yeah. Um, if you're proposing 3, then you would put in here your timeline. Like I can do one program between, in this session between, November, December. I can do another
right.
program, January to, March, and then another program March to June.
Right, makes sense. I have another 2 questions.
Sure, go ahead, Sarah.
So one of them for at the very beginning of this section, we were talking about lesson planning. So are we to provide one example lesson plan for kind of like what we would be doing in that specific program, or do we have to provide all the lesson plans in the proposed time period of that program? So one example, or no, this is exactly what we're going to be doing, let's say all 5 or 6 sessions that we're going
Oh,
for.
so yeah, no, it can be a overall, it depends that, some organizations, they do have it broken down. But you don't necessarily have to give a lesson plan per session. It can
Oh,
be
okay.
just an overall lesson plan, from
Awesome.
the first day to the last day.
Yeah, it's just an overview because you won't know until you're partnered up and paired up with the schools exactly your
Yeah,
timeline.
and it's also good to go into your preliminary planning meeting when you're going to meet with the school. Like, here's my proposed lesson plan, and you're showing it to the teacher who's going to be working with you, and then you can collaborate, and they can say, oh, well, this is what I'm working on. So if you have to make any tweaks, or, they know exactly, what you're gonna be teaching, and you can kind of like get an idea of what they're doing in their classroom.
Right, amazing. Okay. Thank you. And my last question, when we were talking about certain schools not having or not being equipped, so should we include equipment and other like necessary tools in our budget summary for schools that do not provide them? Or I know we haven't gotten into budgeting yet, but for example, I know we talked that transportation is within your budget, should go within your budget summary, but do also, you know, equipment and tools for these schools? I mean, we're not going to know just yet, but should we still provide them?
Right, so when we get to the program section, I mean, the budget section, I didn't get there yet, right?
Okay, we'll keep,
No.
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
go into that.
We'll cover that. Yeah,
All right, awesome.
exactly.
That's it for me. Thank you so much.
Anything
Thanks,
else
Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Um,
Sandy.
We have a question from Janice. So it says attachment A appears to be a summary of all the programs we may choose to offer. Does that get included in all the applications we may submit? So Rosa, do you want to go back to attachment A? I'm not sure where.
Okay, I'm scrolling down. Okay, this is the beginning of the preliminary planning agreement. So when you receive your award letter, you're gonna get a copy of this document with attachment A. Let me just open my screen a little more because I cut off. So this, you are not gonna fill this out until after you're awarded. And you meet with the school and have your preliminary planning agreement. You'll have your school contact, your program name, your start end dates, your grade levels, the number of students, number of classes, your timeline, and then your total number of sessions and any additional information. So this is going to come to us from you, and the schools also have the preliminary planning agreement that has to be filled out and returned to us. This is to be signed. This is attached to it. We match them up to make sure they agree. And then you are able to enter the school. Does that answer your question?
Mhm. I don't see Janice anymore, but hopefully, hopefully it answers a
Oh,
question.
okay.
All right. Well, it's okay. Let's just move on then.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go back to the right screen. Actually, let me open up the screen. Okay, so again, just want to repeat this again for you guys. Download your section after you're done. And when everything is complete and you have no more of these red messages, you'll be able to save it and it'll check off and you'll go to the next section. So this is the budget summary. And here again, all of these are also links directly to the guidelines too. And we put in here the page number where you can find, you know, a reference to the question to help you understand it better. So this is what we were talking about earlier with the program budget summer. So there's a budget narrative. So this is where you're going to summarize your expenses in paragraph form. These are the expenses that your grant will help fund. It allows you to put some meat on the bones of your budget, so to speak. So if you have items designated in other or miscellaneous in your program budget below, this is the program budget, and this is other. There's miscellaneous here. If you enter amounts in those two fields, you are going to explain what they are. And this statement is only going to include information pertinent to what the grant will specifically fund. So in your guidelines on page 7, there is a list of things that cannot be included. So just take a look at that list and make sure none of your expenses refer to those things. So this, you're going to actually enter here, and then when you come down to the budget itself, you're going to actually enter numbers. So I already entered some numbers in here, and you will have, most of the programs have instructor fees. That's the, biggest expense. Staff fees, travel, transportation here, and other. It'll automatically add that each section. Then we have administrative materials, supplies, expenses. So, like you were saying, Sandy, if equipment is not listed as a line item, so you can put it under miscellaneous, and then in your narrative, you're gonna explain that it's for this equipment, and you can, list the equipment and what the cost is under there, and then your total would go in here.
Got it. Thank you.
So again, each section will add for you, and then all 3 of these sections will be totaled here. So let's say I go back in and I say, oh, and equipment rentals is in here. So let's say, oh, my equipment rentals is actually gonna be $200. It automatically updates that math, and you cannot exceed $7,000. So if your numbers go over, you're going to get a red error. And then you're going to double check that these numbers actually match up here, and this is the budget that you were looking for, and you're going to check it. And then you're going to mark it as complete, and that's the whole budget section. Any questions?
Yes, I actually have another one. So I know we're supposed to budget everything now, but how are we going to know exactly if we're not matched with schools with specific numbers, or do we just go based on kind of like the number? I don't know. No, I don't know.
We go based on so you're creating your own budget, right? You would know how much you're paying any teaching artists, any fees for transportation, any, everything that's listed in the
Right.
budget. You're building that out. So you tell us.
No. I mean,
and then
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
and then and just essentially the max is 7,000, right? So keeping that in mind, you back into that budget per program.
No, I understand. I mean, going back, let's say, to the equipment, if the school doesn't provide it, and we would need to either buy or rent equipment, should we kind of like say, okay, this is kind of like however much we're putting in for that part for however many students, because it depends per student. If everybody needs like an instrument, for example, then you would need 15 of that instrument. And I think I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, just because I don't know yet, kind of like how many kids we're going to be working with and things like that. If you're
Well, I mean, like we said, the classes can be 15 to 30
so max
students.
number.
Yeah. If your program is, I think you can say like in your, where you say like what is the minimum like physical requirements that you need. Like you're going to say, well, we hope, that the school will have this particular instrument available. And then you're going to tell us like what instruments you can offer the school as part of your program if you already have them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. Okay. Alrighty, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Awesome, thank
essentially
you.
you would provide as much information as you can. And what I would do is anticipate that the school will not be able to give you the items that you need. Do you know what I mean? Anticipate that, so that way you are prepared to go into any school that you are comfortable with within the county
Right.
to provide the program that you're proposing.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on budget? I'm shocked. Usually this is the big one. All right, I think we can move on, Rosa. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. So, I think we're going back to, yeah, we only have 2 more sections. So, the next section would be artistic work examples. And so here, yeah, you're just going to upload either files or videos, and mark as complete of your artistic work examples. And lastly, we've changed it. I think last year we had like up to 7, we had, required 7. It's going to be up to 5 support materials. And that just support your application. They may be also a video presentation, any letters of support or partnerships that you had in the past, descriptions of teaching tools that you use, or any examples of leave behind materials. For instance, I know we had a program apply last year, and part of it was actually making an instrument. The students made their own instruments, so they included, photos of what that looked like, and what they got to take home with them or use during the actual programming. And then lastly, any feedback will help us on things that, you had issues with, through taking this application or with the programming itself. We appreciate you sharing that with us, so that we can kind of try to improve that in the future. And then I believe there's only one more thing that you have to do, is a certification page. And we just ask that you read, you can sign electronically this year, you enter the date, and then you will be able to, once everything is checked here, this green check mark all the way down on everything, you will be able to submit here. This will be green, and you'll be able to submit your application. And once again, and after you do that, you will also be able to download your entire application. So once it's complete, I again recommend that you download the entire application, and it'll include all your attachments for your own records. And that's basically it for the application.
Thank you, Rosa. It's easy peasy, right, everyone? No, we really did try and streamline it and make it as simple as possible, as user-friendly as possible. We do love SurveyMonkey platform. We've tried quite a few different ones, and this one we seem to really feel is very clear and easy to use. So hopefully you have a good experience. All right, and if we don't have any other questions, we're just going to do a quick overview of the guidelines, which you should all have. Again, the link is in the chat to get them, but this really gives you the detailed information for the entire program, the application, evaluation, accessibility, the grievance procedure, everything. So we'll go over that briefly and just give you an overview on that. Oh, and we just have one more question. In the program details section, do we need to also provide resumes for assistants working with the artist? We do ask for the resumes to be attached. Rose, I don't know if you want to pull up the application again and show where that is.
Yeah, sure. So that is in the program details, yes. So we ask for how you, your selection, review, and training process for teaching artists. And then, yes, you will upload, resumes for the teaching artists themselves. Is the question assistants who are helping the teaching artists?
So, like people who help organize, you know, the process of bringing, let's say, instruments to the place or setting things up. So not necessarily, teaching artists, just people who will be, you know, paid for helping organize or assisting in the process.
Yes,
We-
yeah. We definitely want, anybody who's a member of your organization that is going to be going into the school with you. We need to have their resume and information, into the application as well.
Okay. And lastly, does it have to be kind of like the resume? Does it have to have background of, let's say, if we're doing something that's got to do with music, does it have to have that background, or just a resume and information so you have their information in the future?
Well, the hope is that they do have some background in the programming.
Because they wouldn't be
and-
teaching really, it's just, you know,
Right,
organizing.
no,
or
they're,
helping. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously, if they're working with you, they have some experience with your organization and your company, so they would definitely
Okay.
have that piece of it, It would just be an updated resume.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay. Okay,
Yes, thank you.
okay, great. Thanks, Sandy. So we'll dive into the guidelines now.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave both screens up in case I have to pop back over to the application. Can everybody see okay?
Yeah, it's good, Rosa.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, so first page, basically, yeah, you have, who is able to apply, where the programs will take place, the program period, September 1st through June 31st, which is the school calendar year. Details of the programming we have gone over already. Here's the priorities and the requirements. I'll just read that to you guys. Special consideration will be given to proposals of quality, innovation, and merit that address the following priority issues. Programs that center learners of varying abilities in non-traditional academic programs of culturally diverse or of economically disadvantaged in underserved communities. Support of the arts in municipalities in northern and western municipalities of Hudson County. Programs that promote the growth of artists, arts organizations, and educational art programs serving students grades pre-K to 12 in Hudson County. Programs that expand the influence of Hudson County artists and students in the broader sphere, and programs that authentically match students and school populations with teaching artists from shared cultural backgrounds and experiences. And then also programs that are flexible and can be provided to a variable number of students and within a variable amount of time within a program period. Requirements quickly, again, it's pre-K to 12 and they're in-school programs. We do not fund after school or summer programs in this grant. Those are things that I think are covered under the LAP grant currently. Programs must have a drafted lesson plan that are clearly stated, the goals, the intended outcomes, and the means for evaluation. Of course, when you speak with the school, those are your goals, but then you're going to kind of collaborate with the school to also align them with their goals. Programs must have a minimum of 5 total contact sessions with the teaching artist and occur at least one time per week within a distinct group of learners. And then each program must include a final program presentation. We have that in quotes because sometimes it is a performance, sometimes it is just a class steering inside the classroom, sometimes it is a visual arts show. So it can be many things. We just ask that we know when that's going on because we do make site visits to evaluate the programs and kind of get feedback. And we do have surveys that we give out to students, teaching artists, and teachers within the school to, to gather data and feedback, how we can improve the program, what worked, what didn't work. How can it be changed to have a better experience, next year or in the future. Eligibility, you do have to be based either in Hudson County or the New Jersey, New York metropolitan area currently. Doesn't necessarily mean that if you're not based here, you can't. If you do work in New Jersey, you are required to have a BRC certificate, and under, you may be sponsored by, you may be fiscally sponsored by another organization. You will be serving the residents of Hudson County. You have been in existence for at least 1 full year as of January 1st, 2023, and you exist primarily as arts organization and incorporated in the state of New Jersey and is tax exempt nonprofit organization as certified by the IRS. So that's where that documentation, you'll have a letter of a 501c3. But again, if you're fiscally sponsored, you will have that sponsors documentation. And as far as the school application, which comes next, it's going to be offered to all the public schools located in Hudson County, and that includes charter schools, special schools, any school that is publicly funded. Correct, Gina?
Yes, correct. So it's open to public and charter schools throughout the county and school districts.
Okay, we went over the preliminary planning agreement. It's a program support grant category. This is the ineligible use of expenses that we had talked about. Allowable ADA expenses. And then here are the application questions. Here are the links. You can either, apply directly from our website or directly in SurveyMonkey. Reminder on the deadline. And then kind of describe, the application questions again. So you can refer to those when you're filling out the application itself. If you need help, technical assistance through SurveyMonkey is available during these times. I urge you that if you have a problem with the application itself, contact them first. If you have questions about the application questions, like what we're looking for, you can contact our office between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. or give us an email at grants@hcnj, and we will try to get back to you as soon as we can. Evaluation of the proposals, as Gina was mentioning earlier. After all of the proposals. So it's basically, if you read through this list, and the priorities of funding, how your application will be evaluated by the peer review panel. They're going to be looking at all of these, this criteria. This is the grievance procedure. Accessibility again. There's a link here. If you're not familiar with the Americans with Disability Act, you can go right over there. And we do, again, any detail that you can give us, and specifically, you know, how you would modify your programs, or if you work with special populations of students with disabilities, please let us know. And then here are how we announce the awards and the payments. It's essentially the same it's been in the past, except that we really are stressing here that we need the actual start and end dates on your invoices with the actual dates on your agreements. And these details have to agree with the school details. If they don't, we'll let you know. And the school know, you know, that, okay, you know, you guys, when is this actually starting, or how many, you know, what grade it is. It's just to make sure that, you know, the communication is there and that it's happening. And the
Also,
final,
too, just to give, sorry to jump in, just
yeah,
to
go
let
ahead.
you know, finance will not process the payments. They will not process the checks if those dates are not the same on your invoices and the paperwork. So everything has to match. And that's why we're really stressing that all of the paperwork matches on your end as well as the school's end. So just a heads up. Thank you.
Yes, and in addition to that, we also would like to receive responses for these surveys, which is usually about, you know, we ask that the surveys are done within a week of that final presentation, because all the information is fresh in their mind. And that's why we try to be there to kind of remind everybody about the surveys, the organizations, the schools that are there. You know, as long as we have your invoicing and everything is, you know, as it should be with the actual dates on and all the paperwork matches, it's going to get processed. And that process can take some time, you know, a few weeks, you know, to get that going, as long as everything is, you know, as it should be. But if it, you know, takes a couple of weeks and then something is not, you know, it doesn't match up, you know, it gets kicked back to us and it could take a lot longer. So that's why, you know, we stress that, you know, we need that as soon as possible. And then, of course, as long as the final presentation has taken place and the surveys are done, we can, you know, release the payment. And then, yeah, so here's a section on the final surveys report. So sometimes we don't get the responses from the students, and, you know, for whatever reason, or from the teachers. So we may request a final report in that case. So just to let you know about that. And then lastly, again, stress again, please reach out directly to your schools as soon as possible. Set up your preliminary planning before the school year begins in September 24th. And that's the whole reason why we're doing this a whole month earlier this year. We're hoping that, you know, the awards will be announced earlier by May, and you'll be able to connect with the school prior to them going on summer vacation, or, you know, as soon as possible before the start of September. Again, actual start and end dates we need. We'd like you to keep records of the total number of students who are served by the programs as well. That is going into our data that we are collecting, just so that, you know, we have data on the program. How many kids are, you know, we reaching? It's kind of, you know, tells the story of what the impact is we are making. And then number 3, applicants must provide all documents, materials requested in this application pertaining. Additionally, once you are partnered with your public school, you are responsible for providing the school or the school district with the required documentation materials requested by each of those individual schools or school districts in order to work with the students in their buildings. So, school districts are different throughout the county and what their requirements are with working with children. So they may ask for fingerprinting, they may ask for you to sign a vendor contract, show your liability, insurance if you have, things like that. So, we just want everyone to be aware that that is your responsibility. And that's basically it, guys.
Thank
Any
you so
questions?
much, Rosa.
You're
Yep,
welcome.
any questions? If not, I mean, that's amazing.
yes,
Oh, Sandy, hi.
Sorry, it's me again.
hello, hello,
Oh, that's
hello.
great.
Sorry, I am off camera, but I just would like to ask question about matching. Are you looking for organizational matching or program matching?
No. Can you believe it? No, we're not asking for any matching for this grant, this specific grant. This is a Hudson County initiative, and we want to be able to do as much as we can without putting the onus on your organizations. So as of now, we are not asking for any grant matches.
Oh, thank
Great
you.
question.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about the last section, insurance and liability. Do you mind explaining a little bit? Because I know I see that in the budget too, kind of like what does that entail? Because I'm not sure.
Okay, so you can reach out to the school and ask them specifically, if there's a school district that you are looking to work in, like what are the requirements? From what we hear, if it's a certain amount of hours, you are going to be with a certified teacher. Most of the time, but even so, it's good for you going into a school district, working with, children that you have some sort of professional liability, insurance. And, you can ask about that from, through an insurance agent, what that entails.
Or also to your fiscal sponsor, if
Yeah,
anybody has
exactly.
one. And if
Okay.
anybody that's on the chat now, a lot of you have a lot of experience with working in the public schools throughout the county. Can you just let us know what requirements you've been asked for? I know usually fingerprinting is mandatory. Sometimes they may ask, like Rosa said, for a COI, certificate of insurance. It just is contingent upon each school. But like Rosa said, if it's a certain number of hours, they typically don't, require a lot. It's kind of
Okay.
the basics. So I don't know, Olga, anybody else can jump in to tell
Thank
us
you.
what you've been required of in the past from the schools?
Well, I don't know if it counts. It's not really documents, but diversity is a big deal. So if school we had a lot of Muslim children this year in PS 17, for example, and school had certain requirements. So we couldn't just come up with any show or any teaching artist. We had to match the school with particular artist, particular company, and particular show. And I believe that, and last year we had different experience. School gave us completely artistic, license. We could bring any artists and they loved it. So it all depends, I believe, on the school and on that first initial conversation with the school. But we we didn't have to show any documents. We try always be flexible as much as we can. And the most important is that each school has its own requirement in terms of what they expect. Some schools really would like for your tech people to teach their students, and some schools wouldn't want your tech do anything. Like, for example, last year we had two different, actually it's one school, but in one auditorium, our tech people and their students partnered, and second school, they were very clear, they wouldn't allow our tech people to touch their board. So and I believe that you have to be flexible, but still count the tech hours for each and every school. It's very important that you include, even if tech person just sits down, but they always available, right? So that can be an expense that you should count in, because some of those schools don't have tech on staff.
Thank
Right,
you so much,
exactly.
Olga. I appreciate all amazing points. So hopefully that answers your question, but really, you know, once you have your first initial meeting with the schools that you are matched with, that's where you want to ask the questions for anything that they are requiring of you to enter that school. Typically, like Olga said, in her experience, she hasn't had to provide any additional paperwork. But we have worked with organizations where they have been required to provide insurance, fingerprinting, et cetera. So we just want to let everybody, you know,
Yeah, I mean, the best
aware of
practice is to have it, just in case, you know, to look into it just in case, but it's not always required.
Yes,
Exactly.
we did actually, not through this particular program, but when we did PS15 and with visual artists, I believe it was like 5 years ago, every artist had to go and take the fingerprinting, and all of that was required.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fingerprinting part in the criminal background is, I think, just a law, you know, throughout New Jersey.
Yeah,
And
it's
even though
standard.
it's just a standard. The liability, the COI, like that could be different, you know, like we only, you know, had one case this year that was brought up, so we just wanted to, you know, make sure that you guys are aware that you could be asked for that.
Great, thank you. Well, I want to be, you know, aware of everybody's time. It's 11:02. So I really want to thank you for joining us today and this morning. I hope this was helpful and not confusing. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we look forward to receiving your applications and working with you next year. Thank you again to everyone. Thank you,
Thank you,
Rosa.
everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.